change of scenery. We're just outside in the backyard. But I am going to be putting out a series of videos over the next, several months that are really kind of the in-depth, step-by-step, in order of how you make a Mische Technique painting from start to finish. They will be labeled as, like Mische Technique, like step 1, right? So it'll be really easy to find when you're looking in my playlist of the Mische Technique videos. And it's going to go into depth of, like from getting all the references all the way to the finish. And we're going to be using this painting. So it's actually a very condensed kind of version of the class that I taught online in October of 2025. And so you'll get a sense of kind of not only like how kind of some of my classes that I teach work, but what and how we go over it. In my class, of course, we take a much more in-depth, much more lengthy kind of view, answering questions, really kind of having a conversation as we go through each of these steps. So this is really just kind of the steps with some information, just how my other videos are, but it's going to be very clearly kind of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, all the way through. And that could be, I know a lot of people on here are interested in the Mische Technique. This is your first time kind of coming to it. And even if you've done the Mische Technique before, maybe you're new to this way of working, this particular order of the steps. And I also, over the years, have kind of refined how to talk about it in a way that I think makes the steps much easier to digest when you're working on a painting and you kind of come up to certain parts of the process that can be very difficult. So organizing it in such a way that is really digestible, really easy to kind of understand and follow as you're working does help kind of keep the momentum going as you're working on a piece that does take a while. Like so much in our culture right now is immediate, when we can, tell AI to do something and it's done in a second. Like, why bother, working on a painting that takes months to finish? I think that's an obvious answer, and I'm not going to go into it here because, of course, we should bother, and making things matters more than anything now. And but it does also, we can't be blind to the fact that this is what we're up against, right? If we were all Renaissance artists and we all had patrons of various kinds that, it wouldn't matter, right? I mean, this could just be a really lovely like Mische Technique guild, and we learn the technique in all its intricacies, and everyone has time to really develop and flourish over the many years that everyone has time to like develop and flourish of the many years that we are we would be learning together. So we're going to be going through this Spinosaurus painting, Spinosaurus aegypticus. And I am, so glad you're here as always. And the first step is going to be getting your reference material, getting it drawn, getting it on the canvas. And here we go. I am looking forward to doing this. And let's just dive straight in. Because Spinosauruses are extinct and I couldn't get a reference I liked online, I purchased a Spinosaurus toy and lit it how I want him to be in my painting. I made some Play-Doh pyramids. I took a photo of myself in the right pose with the same lighting, and then I put it all together. And then in Procreate, I cleaned it up. And so then I also, you can see kind of, I'm making it as nice as I can because this is going to be my main photo reference for my painting. I got some background images, changed them up in a variety of different ways to something that I liked. This isn't exactly the background, obviously, but it's a good reference how I want it. So I have a tiny little projector. I hooked up my computer to the projector, projected this image onto my canvas, and then I trace that image onto my canvas. Yes, I could just draw it, but honestly, this saves me time on just getting all the proportions correct and placement. I can move it around on my canvas
to make sure it's exactly how I like it. And you see I'm doing actual very minimal tracing in the first place. And so with this very minimal line that's there, I go back and I painstakingly draw in my painting. And so this is where, when if somebody, wants to criticize about using a projector, actually I'm spending way more time doing the proper drawing. I'm drawing in not only the figure, but I'm drawing in all the costuming. I'm drawing in all the extra elements that I did not project on there initially. So when you're drawing a fantastical beast of some type or other, dinosaur, dragon, mermaid, whatever, I always like using references from the real world. So the Spinosaurus, I think currently it's dubbed the heron from hell, but herons don't have teeth. So the closest thing I think to a face like that alive today is a crocodile. So you can see I was looking for crocodile images, found a couple I liked, which I will go back to later, you'll see. And here I am doing the work of using the original photograph, because it's just a better, higher, closer up resolution than my Procreate mock-up of the entire painting, which I use as a reference also. But see, I'm going back here and I'm painting everything in detail. And I always like to get, here I'm just using a general spear reference to kind of get the line correct. Don't be afraid to flip your painting in a variety of different angles so that you make straight lines or certain angles, certain things that you're drawing easier for you. It is a movable object. Please, move it around at your convenience. Just trying to get a straight edge there to get it correct, and kind of just making something up as I go along to get it right there. And so then once the pencil drawing is in, I go back in with a Bic pen. This is a black Bic pen, and I outline everything. So I draw only part of it in with pencil, and I do a lot more of the detail work in the pen. So because at some point too much pencil just starts getting muddy. I don't like having something underneath my hand when I'm drawing. So for me, it's easier if you're one of those people that loves using one of those, sticks or, different kinds of things, or you paint with gloves on, go for it. You can do it your own way. But for me, this works best. So then I go in great detail with the pen and do the rest of my outlining. So I am using a John Galliano couture piece from his 97 runway show as inspiration there. Get your inspiration, wherever you'd like. And so I'm using, obviously I'm putting that onto the figure. This is my own version of that couture dress, if you can call that a dress, ensemble. And I'm, always I'm trying to make what I have done in my previous kind of layer better. I do that all throughout the technique, but especially in the drawing, right? It's like I try to do a little better job every single time I work on it. Just to, make sure I'm staying honest and true to my vision, so that instead of, it kind of sliding over time, hopefully it actually gets better over how you're working on it. So here I just want you to see, I'm working on, I have a bunch of references that I use for paintings when I work. And so I found this alligator reference where I flipped the photo so that he's going in the right direction, and he's about the same size. So I like painting from an iPad. One of my teachers once recommended that we go to Kinko's and actually print out what we're painting as the same size as what we're, our reference to be the same size. You can just, glue it right onto the canvas while you're, tape it with, adhesive that doesn't stick to your canvas so you have it right next to each other. For big paintings, that works amazingly well. For smaller paintings, there's not enough room. Right? So I find the iPad to be great, but key feature here. You always want to have your reference be the same size as what you are drawing or painting. Don't zoom in. Don't ever zoom in, because you're going to start adding detail that like your eye can't see at that size anyway, and you're going to make yourself crazy and it's going to be incorrect, right? So this painting is a 16 by 20 canvas, and that figure is from her kind of, from where she is sitting to the top of her head is about 5 inches, maybe 6. And if I zoom in on her and try and put all of that detail in her face, it would, I couldn't do it. B, it wouldn't matter because your eye can't see all that anyway, right? So you need to make sure that your reference is the same size, because it's more realistic. It's more appropriate for how a viewer is going to view your piece, and you'll get the correct information rather than trying to put too much detail in something that isn't going to, it's not going to enhance your piece, and it's not going to matter. And conversely, you're getting the correct amount of detail for how large something is as well, right? So it works both ways. So going over it, you can see that I'm adding in details that were not there in the pencil. I'm adding in, various forms. I'm making sure, I get some of that texture on his skin. I have, you'll see over the course of this, I move the pyramids like a bazillion different times. So, you kind of always want to check yourself and recheck yourself. The thing about this technique is that it gives you many opportunities to make sure you've got all of the pieces where they're supposed to be. And you can, I have videos on how to fix stuff, how to add things, how to subtract things. How do you, you want to keep making the best version of this painting every single time, and making sure that you are, just treating every moment to make it the best version of this piece that you can make. So I am, drawing in her cool kind of Egyptian saddle. I actually looked up tomb paintings of like what they sat on horses in ancient Egypt, and so that's what's on there because I'm a nerd. And then just kind of doing some very light skin texture to guide me when I am going to be painting this in. And so you want to get it very detailed, but you're making a line drawing. I am not doing shading. I am not, there it goes. I'm not doing any kind of cross-hatching, nothing. Like the Bic pen, your pen, and I wouldn't use another kind of pen. I would only stick to Bic pen. Your Bic pen is the outline, and that's it. You're going to use the rest of the technique to do the highlights and the shadows. And right now, this is all you're focused on is just the outline. So you have that container with which you can fill the rest of the three-dimensionality of it with the paint that you're going to apply right after. So the next step after this, you're going to paint it red, and then we will pick it up from there in the next video. Like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.